What if all the executive branch agencies simply privatize themselves and continue to do the same work with the same regime funding sources, the banks, the philanthropists, etc., as before? Will the people still allow the agencies to run their lives? Will the people still obey and comply? What if that has already happened? What if the government lies first about its own existence? If the agencies aren't constitutional in the first place and aren't accountable to the people, how were they ever part of our government? And what then is our government? Okay, so the false reality layer on top of our base layer constitutional republic can still exist even while it's separated from the government. Trump can cut these executive branch agencies off in every possible way, and they can still exist. They can just simply privatize themselves. Okay, and then work as the CDC, funded by big pharma and philanthropists, that still advises the nation on health and how to avoid disease. And they will still be seen as the experts on disease by everyone who's anti-Trump or normie or a statist or a groveler. And it turns out there are a lot of statists and grovelers within MAGA. And so when their state says, when they create a new pandemic, hey, the CDC says you have to wear 2 masks. And then the state, the governor in a state like California, for instance, says to the people, the CDC recommends that you wear 2 masks. So California is going to put a mask mandate policy in place for this county, this county, this county, this county, this county. And all the county officials they know are already going to enforce the mandate they put in place. And then because they get to hold the business licenses over the businesses, they can force the businesses to put those mandates in place. And then the people who want to use those businesses will be told by those businesses, hey, wear a mask. And the other people that are customers of that business will tell the people without the masks, hey, put on your mask. And you'll say, why? I don't have to do that. Well, the CDC says so. And California has a state mandate, and this business requires it in order to keep their business license. So therefore, you need to wear a mask. The CDC says. What difference would it make whether or not the CDC is part of the government? What difference would it make? It's impossible to detect a difference that it would make. So therefore, if there is no difference that it would make, and that situation is the same as this situation that we're in now, what does it mean that Trump will dismantle that agency and move it outside of the federal government? And I would say that it might not mean much. Of course, this is already the situation that we've had for the last few years, because we can see that these organizations are being funded by outside sources. Here's the thing. They're linked into our military, aren't they? Or at least the Department of Defense and the Pentagon. So we got a problem there as well. But what I am suggesting is that if all our federal agencies are like this, and the truth is that many of them are, then the administrative state, the false reality layer of our government, can exist entirely separate from the government onto which it is a parasite, but doesn't need to be a parasite, because the global regime and the philanthropists will continue funding all those quasi-governmental organizations the same way that they already fund NGOs. Okay? And then at the point where they reject the people's candidate through fake elections, once Donald Trump is no longer around, well, then they just move those privatized agencies right back into the federal government, or just reform those connections, which they may not even need to do, because the federal government as it exists on the regime fiat dollar, implementing the regime agenda, the uniparty agenda, already has ways of paying everybody. Okay? They don't need any of the things that the Supreme Court is taking away, or that Donald Trump might take away, to continue to do the same jobs that they're doing, especially if the states and the people continue to respect those agencies as, you know, the experts. They don't need anything else. They really can just keep their system going. Does the regime seem like the Great Reset has been destroyed. Well, there's certainly a deglobalization going on, and we can hope that that is being initiated, executed, carried out by the BRICS nations in what might be called a sovereign alliance, what might be called the emergence of the multipolar world order. And we can hope that Donald Trump is aligned with that thing in opposition to those global regime banks. But if he's not, that would be very bad. Now, I don't believe that he is. He was the catalyst of this great awakening to the extent that there is one. So he deserves credit and the benefit of the doubt endlessly for that.